Hello, everybody, and welcome to this fresh episode of In Our Humble Opinion.
Ayo!
And we are back, but not from outer space. But we are back for another week just to entertain you guys and give you some morsels of information. And I am happy to have with me on my left the cool Grandma Daisy, and on my right,
Namaste.
I have the Professori, the El Professori, glittery Gilbert. And welcome back with us once again. And today we're going to talk about a couple of things. Frankly, I'm just going to keep it short. It's about animals, and an animal on two legs, and it's not a primate. Let's not insult the primates. And we're going to give you some little news about, it's good news actually, about the state of Singapore where this pandemic is concerned to end the show later on. So I'm gonna kick this off, guys, with the first story. Again, it's about animals today. It's amazing.
That's wonderful.
One of my pet peeves, pun entirely intended. Actually, not pet peeve, my pet topic. Mm-hmm. And there's been something that drew the ire of netizens online about therapy horse petting sessions that's now being actually going to be done in Ion Orchard, and it drew some flack. So some people have complained that it's abusive for the animals, and they're basically horses, they're little mini horses, and it's good therapy. It's so funny when they say therapy, because I always said this to my late dog when he sits in my car, and he sits in a car well right next to me, and his head is just there. And when I'm driving, I would rub my hand on his head, and I always tell him, "You're my hand therapy, man," because it's so good, I can completely relate to that. But what do you guys think about these guys, the people who've been complaining, not so happy about the animals being put on, not on show, but for a good reason?
So, last week we talked about jumping to conclusions and having opinions without facts. And this is a very good example of it. I think I looked at the comments that people were making online, and, I think that some of them probably came from a good place, like they were concerned about the animals. But there were definitely a lot of the typical whiners who were just there to either troll or just to complain. The fact is that these are therapy animals. They go out to a lot of different places. They serve a very important purpose, and Equal Arc is a great organization. I know of them. I've helped them raise money before when I was at Tatler, and they rescue these horses which would have been put down. And the kind of emotional connection that some people have with these horses, people who are unable to break out of their depression, out of their problems, is wonderful. And if you actually go and read on the website, you see the kind of work that they do, you'll see that these horses are very well taken care of. They are very used to people. There are all kinds of measures in place to make sure that the crowds inside are small because of COVID as well. Everything has to be pre-booked. The animals are given the rest that they need between the petting and all of that. So I don't see any problem at all with this. If anything, this just highlights the propensity of some people to complain about something, no matter what it is, even something as good as this.
I totally agree with that. It's just social media in action and going all wrong. But I also feel that I'm very glad that the CEO came up and made a statement to clarify what exactly is happening.
All the details.
Yes, because you see, you don't want to lose something just because of this whole cancel culture and let's not do it. And there's horse therapy, dog therapy.
Yes.
Like you mentioned, dogs go into hospitals. There are guide dogs. These animals are all used positively.
Yes. And they help kids with autism and elderly.
And more importantly, it's also been proved that animals themselves get bored. They need interaction.
Yes.
So it's wonderful that the animals are also getting from these children what they want. And it just overall is such a wonderful thing that I think if this works well, then instead of just, because originally they used to have this therapy in Jalan Mashur, which is quite far for a lot of parents to reach with their children.
Yes.
And they are bringing this to central Singapore,
Yes,
to
yes.
the Ion. And I
And they
truly
actually go
feel
to HDB estates as well.
and that's the way, because of COVID we are having these mental problems, issues, children cooped up, and you know what, this is ideal. So for those who care about animals and are writing because they care, I think they have to go beyond that and also try to understand what is at stake here.
But I think, I wouldn't be in the least surprised, guys, that the people who have been complaining about this, they're not even pet owners themselves. It's just, oh gosh, try not to put up bloody appearances. Some people like to compare this to, for example, the show elephants in Phuket. Now, those elephants, they live through terrible conditions.
Yes.
I agree.
Yes.
But this is not about show.
Absolutely, and there's no comparison.
Yeah, exactly. It's not an
Horses are not
apple-to-apple
wild
comparison.
animals.
Exactly.
No, and also,
And then,
this is an NGO that has been working on this.
Correct.
They are, have the credit
Yep.
to make this work.
and my late dog, I had a golden retriever.
What was his name?
Rascal. And he was completely the opposite.
No, we are asking
You
the
named
dog's
him-
name.
My dog's name
Yeah,
is
I know.
Rascal.
He
Thank you
named
very
him
much.
after himself.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so I was like,
he
okay.
took he took my third name actually. Yeah. So basically, even when he was young, I took him to old folks' homes.
Oh.
Yeah, and you should see the faces light up, man. I mean,
Betting,
yeah,
playing.
yeah. And at
So
the same time,
touching.
it really works, really. And Goldens are such lovely dogs. And I volunteered him at a time when the Civil Defense Force didn't have enough dogs for search and rescue. I was a handler, and he was certified.
Wow.
So for a year and a half, every weekend we
Wow,
look
that's
forward
great.
to go. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
fantastic,
And
Well,
he must have enjoyed it.
He did.
That's it.
He did.
They
Yeah.
love it
Exactly.
as well.
Animals, horses, dogs, especially, they love to be petted.
I mean,
You
we've
know?
got this, we know now
It helps them.
about dolphins and how some children who are autistic or have issues, and then when they swim with the dolphins, there is an interaction, and it's just better for their
Yeah,
health.
the dolphins
So the
thing
more,
I would disagree with about keeping them in captivity, because those are wild animals that they catch
Right. I
and bring
agree.
into attack.
Yeah,
Correct.
that shouldn't
Yeah.
happen.
but
That
you
shouldn't
know,
happen.
but you know,
horses,
no, but you know, Gilbert, what they've started doing now, and we saw this when we were in Israel, is that actually the dolphins were in the wild, and it is amazing. But because they're waiting, and then it's actually at a certain time. Some of them come on their own.
Oh yeah, no, that's different.
And
We're
no,
talking
and
about the
they
ones
come
at
in their
SeaWorld.
own. No, they come in
Yeah.
their own into that area. And when they come, some of the children are let in, of
Yeah,
course,
no, of course, that's a
supervised.
different- yeah.
And it's
That's
just
different.
beautiful
That's different. That's
because the
different.
dolphins
Yeah, yeah.
change.
They're still
They
free.
become, and
Yeah,
they're
they're still
slower,
free. Yeah.
and they allow themselves to be petted and held.
Yeah.
And just watching that is just so
Well,
amazing.
that's a different.
Yeah,
That's a
that's a
different
different
story.
one. Yeah.
But since we're talking about this, I mean, yes, I do believe very much that these animals also feel, they get stress relief too because of
Yes.
people petting them.
Yes.
Because
but-
that's what's meant to be.
Yeah, but on this show, right, we're going to be opening the show also for some heavy petting. So don't worry, Gilbert has volunteered for that. So.
All right, that came out of nowhere.
Okay. But now, moving on.
If you need therapy, we're open for heavy petting. Gilbert is available. Just give the producer a call.
Oh, yes.
Okay,
Chris Hanson's phone number.
Well, are we doing this now as a side activity, Gilbert? I didn't know about this.
It's called the petting zone now. That's the next show you
You
got.
guys.
Okay, so
Full on
moving on to animals of a different kind. I'm going to move on to talking about our city-state, our little red dot, that has a problem. Because we have wildlife living in our midst. And now, after a wild boar attack in Pasir Ris last week, a question was raised. Should this wildlife stay or go? So, should they remain? Should they be controlled? Should they be removed? Now, wildlife is a part of our drive to have a city amongst nature. I mean, we pride ourselves on the fact that we welcome the otters, the migrating birds, we have a variety of snakes. But now with the boars, chickens and other wildlife living in their midst, residents in Pasir Ris are now being given a say on whether these animals should stay or go. I have no idea where they are going. I know the chickens from Sin Ming Estate were sent to Seletar. But now we are talking about a survey which was posted by Senior Minister Teo Chee Han on Sunday, November 22nd. And he is seeking the residents' views on what should be done about the wild animals in Pasir Ris after a wild boar attack in the area last week, when a wild boar charged at a woman at the Sungai Api Api Park, knocked her down and left her with lacerations on her left leg and face. And of course, recently there was another attack where there were cyclists and they were at Pulau Ubin and they were carrying food with them, and the boar trotted up because they were looking for the food. They could smell the food. So, what do you think? Should the wildlife remain amongst us, or where should they go?
Gilbert, what do you think before I lose it all? Because, I wish I had whiskey in my coffee, though.
Okay.
You don't?
No, I don't, unfortunately.
This is your state of affairs without the whiskey? Okay.
Okay, so as usual, again, this starts out with people complaining.
Exactly.
Okay. I would like to point out to the people who are complaining about wildlife that this attack took place inside a wildlife park. So it wasn't as if this boar ambled up to a coffee house in the HDB estate and attacked people. This woman was inside Sungai Api Api Park, and that is a wildlife park. Okay, that's a nature reserve. So I think that what I've observed certainly is that with social media now, there's a cycle of what happens. Something happens, it appears on social media, and a whole slew of know-it-alls then starts to post their comments. Very often without knowing anything at all, they'll post it. And the default often is, why doesn't the government do something? Okay? And then the government, as it has always been, is very reactive to the people, which has got its good and its bad parts. I mean, certainly you don't want a government like you have in some of the countries that don't care about what people think or say.
Yeah.
I've certainly experienced that living in the US myself. You also don't necessarily want a government that's so reactive that the lowest common denominator makes the most noise, and then the government reacts to that, you see. So in this case, I think that there is maybe a legitimate concern or question about wildlife. If it were to come out of the parks and start attacking people, I don't think that has happened yet. Okay?
Right.
So I don't see a need for this. I think that we need to be aware that we are living with these animals. Absolutely. And that we're lucky in the sense that we have got these wildlife reserves that, Singapore being a crowded little island as it is, has got about 20% of wildlife of the country still as wildlife reserves, which is remarkable, But people need to respect that also.
Right. And that's it.
Yeah.
Because again and again, even with like the monkeys at MacRitchie, and again, they have been told strictly not to feed the animals.
Exactly.
And I think once you feed them, you give them the habit.
Yeah.
And then you complain when they come and attack you for your curry puffs.
Yeah.
That's
also,
just
I think
not
that
done.
even without feeding them, if they associate you with food because you're carrying food into the wildlife reserves to eat yourself,
correct,
they smell the food. And they're animals.
Yes.
They're going to do what's natural to them. So I think I would probably want the government to be more strict about not letting people bring food into wildlife reserves, not to go into wildlife reserves to picnic, than to actually do anything about the animals themselves.
No, and sorry. I just feel that there's one more point which was brought up by one of the readers of the Straits Times today, which I read, and I thought that was an excellent point, that there should be more animal-proof garbage bins. So that, you don't picnic, you have leftovers, and then you don't decide to be kind and give those leftovers to the wild animals. You pack it properly and dispose it off in the animal-proof garbage bins.
Well, they should just bring it with them, right? Not leave it inside the
right.
park.
But I'm just saying, if there are crumbs when you clean up, and I thought that was a valid point, because it is the food that plays a very pivotal role in, tempting these animals to come towards you.
Yeah. This whole story was actually aired yesterday morning on a particular radio show from a particular station, and I was listening in on it. As a matter of fact, I was also participating in it. So I just want to say that there's been some suggestions, and some are utterly ridiculous. Things like, we should tell the schools to teach our children about how to handle wild animals. I said, are you kidding me? Then what's it going to be leaving you as a parent to teach your children? because you were not taught either. There's this thing called Google. Go find out, right? And I think it is ridiculous, and you're so right, to set up a poll for this. Animals are much as entitled to our world as we are to it. And then when you kalbu about not having enough BTOs, not having enough new flats being built, so land gets
Used up
cleared,
for-
Yep.
and then the habitats are getting smaller and smaller. These animals do get lost,
Yeah.
because what happened is this used to be my home. It's now gone, and they wander. Can you blame them?
Yep.
And then what the heck are you going to be complaining about? You went into a wildlife park. You went into their domain. You respect their domain. Don't kalbu.
No.
Sorry, I got some things to say, please. I was
Kalbu.
waiting for the two of you to finish talking, so I want to say all these things now.
Yeah.
Now, wild animals, some of them, many of them, as a matter of fact, are also social creatures. They're protecting their young more often than not, or their family. For example, wild boars, they move in herds,
Yes.
And more often than not, it's their family, really, grandparents included.
Yeah.
Okay? And they move along together. We in the army, those of us in infantry, were very used to wild boars and their families. Why? I got chased by one. I'll never forget it.
Wow.
During my reservist time, I was on a recce. I was alone, and this female boar, very big, huge female boar, was in front of me
Where were you?
in Pulatukong,
Okay.
and it started to trot,
Yeah, they run.
toward me. So
So-
retreated backwards. I had some thunder flashes in my pocket. I turned around and I started to trot and watching the guy, and she was just starting to get faster. She was starting to charge at me.
Wow.
I wouldn't use the word attack because she was probably being defensive.
Yeah.
Animals wouldn't just attack unless provoked or unless they feel something is not right. I couldn't avoid this one because she was just in front of me. So I learned this from my dad a long time ago. When wild boars charge at you, you make a sharp directional turn, left or right.
Because they can't see properly.
Because of the vision, they will go one whole round like that. And by the time
That's
the
like the
animal
rhino.
does that, you disappear.
Yeah.
They can't see you anymore. So you make sure you disappear.
gone.
But I did throw a thunder flash.
Ah.
I did. Because I don't want to harm the animal. So I just threw it right where my feet was as I was running. So I know that it wouldn't hurt the animal. Because I'm very conscious about wanting to hurt animals. I don't want to do that, right? So that's what you do. You just make a sharp turn to the left or to the right, and then that's it. You're quite cool. And you're right, Daisy. Look at this wild boar that went after that hamper at the front of the bicycle, right? Animals can only begin to understand how your food tastes if people have been feeding
Feeding
them.
them, correct.
Hey, got sugar. Oh, this one tastes a bit spicy. What's this taste I never had before? All these other things I've been eating were rubbish. Then you give them an appetite.
Yes, and then they return.
So you know what? The people who are going to do and take the poll, if you're going to be idiots and say, yeah, we should get rid of them. What do you think this is? A Swati restaurant?
No, so the question is, let us say, hypothetically, that the residents do say, for whatever reason, that we don't want the wildlife in Pasir Ris. Where will these wild boars go?
Cull them, I suppose, and really end up in the Swati restaurant.
Is that no? But there's, you see, so instead of that, if they start learning how to coexist, or if they start learning, like you said, not carry the food, be sensible, be sensitive, and there are enough warning signs telling you how to behave.
But Daisy, yes, that's true. Like, for example, in Bedok Reservoir Park, there's a sign that says about being aware of stray dogs and what to do.
Yes.
That's not a bad idea at all. But if you think about this, that one major accident, which is major, yes, I empathize with her. She was being charged at by a wild boar, and then she got
fell.
injured to the bone.
Yes.
I mean, it could be seen, her injuries right to the bone.
Yeah, lacerations.
But I don't think they were just lacerations. But
That's what it says here, though.
oh, is it?
Yeah.
Right.
There was no because the boar charged at her, but he didn't bite her. Or
But
anything
Gilbert,
like
one
that.
incident, one serious incident, and one of this boar just taking
Knocked
off
her
with the
down.
food and then ran away
Yeah.
with the food, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, and that warrants a poll?
Yeah, I think that again the
The
government's
concerned-
reacted because there were a lot of complaints.
Complaints,
as
yeah.
always.
But then you see,
the
that's
thing.
what happens. Whilst they complain, they don't realize it's all we don't
Can
want.
we
What's
also-
happening, and then the cat's out of the bag. And
Can we
then
also
you
run a
don't
poll
know.
of our own of who we should get rid of in that estate? And also, kick them out and throw them into the wildlife and bring in the wildlife to where they live.
Wow, we're fierce, huh? Like a white boar today, Chris.
No,
Attack.
Yep. Okay.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Gilbert's going to tell us a story about this one that's the other animal
Yes.
on two legs. It's not a primate.
Yes. Well, so talking about having to live with each other and living with wildlife. There was this case here, which I thought was really outrageous. Basically, a 12-year-old boy was given a bicycle because he had just finished his PSLE, and he was riding it around his Hougang neighborhood when older gentleman, I wouldn't even call him gentleman, older man, first went and told him he cannot ride on the bicycle paths, which is not true. You are allowed to ride on bicycle paths. And then after that, when he told his father about it, the father went to the NEA site, got all the information, taught the boy about it, told the boy to tell the man that he is allowed to ride the bicycle the next time it happens.
Footpath.
Footpath, sorry.
Yeah.
Right on the footpath. And when the boy encountered the man again and dared to stand up to the man and tell him that I'm allowed to be here. He was filming the man, and you could hear him in a quivering voice telling the man, I'm allowed to be here. This man attacked him basically, knocked him down, and he slapped him and kicked him in the chest. Which I think is outrageous. The father went down and managed to found a boy with a good Samaritan who had witnessed the thing and was helping the boy, and then found the man who had done this and filed a police report against it. I think that we can all agree that there is absolutely no excuse for attacking a child. Even if the child had made a mistake, in which was not the case in this situation, the boy was allowed to be on that bike path. And he's a 12-year-old boy, and he had just gone to the bicycle. I don't think he was doing wheelies or anything untoward on there. This man seems to be, having an anger management issue. And I really do think that people need to stand up to bullies like this. This is just bullying, You just do not do this kind of thing, and there needs to be no acceptance of this. So, this is the situation now. What do you guys think?
Me?
Yeah, because so you don't have to
I mean,
wait
I'm
for
against what-
two of us to keep quiet.
Yeah.
I'm against what this man done to this boy. It doesn't seem like you're right. It doesn't seem to me that the boy was doing stunts and tricks on that footpath. I mean,
Yeah,
we
just
can't really tell, but it
one
doesn't
week
seem
only.
to me reading
Yeah.
what we're reading.
Yeah.
But I would like to also talk about the encounter I've had with kids on bikes. And I'm talking about 11, 12-year-old kids, by the way. Not, bikes and other stuff. And there was a night, we came back from the movies and we decided to take the train to the movies. And we took a train home. So when we got out of the train station, we had to walk back home along the footpath. So my wife, my son, and myself. And out of the blue, 3 kids on bikes came charging past us and nearly knocked down my wife and my son. No apology, they just kept going, and they had to stop at a pedestrian crossing, and I approached them. And I said, I didn't tell him you can't ride on the footpath. I said, you know something, you nearly went down my family down there because you're speeding on the footpath. And they said, so what? Some kids can be very mouthy.
Yes.
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 And absolutely disrespectful. I'm not saying this particular kid in this story of ours had been mouthy himself.
Correct.
But I'm saying also for the kids out there, for goodness sake, if someone approaches you, Just say, I think I'm allowed. I'm sorry. I'll get off my bike now. I'll just push it. Okay? And just watch that idiot go by. And then get back on.
Correct.
Don't look for trouble.
Yeah, so
but they're young kids, they might not know this. But also, more importantly, don't be mouthy.
But Chris, I want to ask you something. Let's say you approached them, you spoke to them, they were being mouthy. And then suddenly while you're talking to them, because already you went through this situation where you were practically run down, you're being quite understanding and you're telling them that to be careful. And one of them just whips out this camera and starts filming you, irrespective of what happened before, which
It's
no
inciting
one
more
saw.
trouble.
And then it's suddenly the person gets on the defensive. You're like, what
but,
the hell?
but why did he whip out his camera?
That's
too,
my
you see?
question.
You know what I mean? Why did he whip it out? Now,
I don't have a problem with him taking out camera, because especially if he had an earlier encounter.
but
with
it's
this person.
provoking.
But no, that's
So-
why I'm saying not about what we are talking, but because Chris went through this, I do realize that you're mouthy, let's say, and you're in the wrong, and you whip out the camera. Usually, if not, the person on the other side will react.
Yes,
maybe even in
yeah.
an angry manner, and then you've got you on camera and saying, "Look, Chris Henson, look at this individual, Kotek of the week,
Sure.
the way he behaved."
No, okay, hang on a second. According to this article, anyhow, the man grabbed the handlebars of the bicycle, attacked him, and then noticed that he was being filmed, and then tried to knock the phone out of his hand. So I think that the bad behavior from this man started even before he noticed
Absolutely.
that he was...
No, Gilbert, I agree. We both agree. Hitting a child, we are not discussing that. But I also agree with Chris that the young kids today also have to be more respectful and not just, okay, so what? Get out of my
course,
way.
there's no question about that. But I'm talking about this case here, right? This kid, if you watch the video, seems to be, quite meek and mild. And I think that the point here also is that what you had said earlier, Chris, about getting off the bike and then letting the guy go by. The guy lives in that state. The guy is going to see the kid again. He had already challenged the kid the first time and then challenged the kid the second time. So there's no way of getting out of this in the sense like, okay, you're not happy, I'll get on my bicycle.
But you're allowed to
And then-
ride on the footpath.
Yes, you're allowed to. You're allowed to. It's very clearly here.
Yeah.
On cycling paths and shared paths, such as park connectors, the speed limit is 25 kilometers an hour.
Correct.
On footpaths, it's 10 kilometers an hour. So, cyclists are allowed on public paths, except for pedestrian-only ones, which are marked. So I think that's not the issue.
That's not the
here,
issue.
lah.
It's just
I
that
think
this man was
this
being...
man, yes.
I know what. He needs therapy. That
But anyway-
horse therapy that we were talking about.
the three kids I was
Might
telling
hit
you?
a horse.
The
He
three
might need
kids,
the horse.
the three kids that nearly ran down my family. When I told them, and they cycled off across the road, and all of them gave me the birdie, and then they all started hurling Hokkien profanities from across the road at me, and they couldn't be more than 12.
Yeah.
And
So
what did
I
you
just want to
do?
say that sometimes also there are clowns like that.
But Chris,
you know?
what did you do when you were standing there with your wife and your son and this was going on? Because your son is young.
What did
and
I do? What do you
No,
mean?
means, you see, he's learning this kind of behavior,
Yeah.
right? He's watching, he's
No, I'm not worried
but he's
about that.
obviously learning its bad behavior.
Yeah,
He's
my
not,
my,
Yes,
my
yes.
boy knows for a fact that that's
Yeah.
completely unacceptable.
Yeah, of
so that's
course.
fine.
Yeah, I don't think that's an issue.
You know,
there.
it's just that the
It's
So
not just
how-
the parents.
yeah, but there are kids like that too, and sometimes just don't be mouthy, and just
No
don't
question
be
there.
disrespectful.
But yeah, and also don't,
You never know, you
yeah.
never know whether or not there could be some things in this story that we're reading right now that's not even being mentioned. I don't know. There could be. It's one-sided at the moment.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't think that there's any justification for a man, especially if they went.
No,
if they
that
went
one
and
is wrong.
Actually, if they went and
I
filed
mean,
a
I'm
police
not
report.
talking. I'm not
Yeah.
talking about what he did. That's definitely wrong.
Yeah.
That's a given. But I'm saying, was there provocation? We don't know. Did this kid say more than he said? So
Yeah, but even if they did, even
Prior
if he
to the
did-
video
sure,
recording.
but even if he did anything as terrible as what those
I
three
know it
kids did
doesn't
to
warrant
you,
the action.
You didn't react that way.
But that's not
Yeah.
the thing. Is that if every young person knows that he's got the power in his hands with a phone and a camera,
Right, too.
and everything can look legit and on
Correct.
his side.
Correct.
Yes, the resultant effect was wrong was wrong. Nobody should do that kind of stuff to that kid. It's wrong. Let me just say that, declare that for a fact. But we don't know what happened prior.
I think it's irrelevant though, because every one of us
This
has
is a weapon,
phone,
my friend.
But every one of us has a phone. So I'm saying we're in equal opportunity society. Everyone has a phone. Everyone can whip it out and you do it that way.
It's being
as
used as a-
adults, though, you need to know
Restraint?
restraint.
Let me ask you something. We can always say that, restraint, no doubt, and we should. You're right. But with that, even these kids know you're an adult. You're an adult, so please exercise restraint. But I'm going to continue provoking you even more.
But I wouldn't let myself be provoked, because if I'm not doing anything wrong, he can film all he wants. I'm glad he's filming.
No, what I'm saying is not
because-
everyone's going to
yeah.
not everyone's going to react like you, Gilbert.
No, I'm not saying that. Everyone should.
There
react
will
like
be
me.
people who
Yeah.
would just, I've tried, I really took a deep breath, but this kid just keeps egging me on. Could have happened that way.
Sure, but then
there
so
are,
what, though?
There are kids like that, by the way.
I know, of course.
Vicious,
Of course.
little animals.
Of course, but
Yeah.
so what? My point basically is, so
That's
what?
it.
You don't
If I could
react
slap them, I
then-
will.
Now-
I won't, but
Ah,
I
you
will
see,
if I
that-
could.
Now we are taking him for the therapy as well. He needs that horse
No,
to
no,
just
well,
touch.
My point
Well,
basically is just that life is going to always have enraging, infuriating
Correct.
people.
No, so that's why the father did,
And diabolical kids too.
No, the father spoke to his son. I didn't quite understand, but he did say that now the son has to become more street smart. So I'm not really sure exactly what street smart means in Singapore's context, because
Yeah.
I usually hear, kids
Yeah.
come from
The
India.
actions
He said
is
he's
wrong.
still traumatized from people cycling on his own.
The actions are wrong of what that man did to this boy. That is wrong. I do not condone that. But what I am saying, I'm not even saying that boy may have done something or has done something to provoke the situation. He could have, maybe he did, we don't know. We're just not sure.
Sure.
Maybe he didn't. Fine, But what I am trying to say is there are kids out there, and I've experienced it, that can provoke you till kingdom come. And that they should be taught that they should just know not to be mouthy.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got
And
that.
respect
And let's
older
not
people.
be mouthy, and we shall move on to the next topic, which is Gilbert, over to you, talking about the good news.
Yeah. Okay. So now that we have got that out of our system, basically we know what we need to do and not do. Some news that has just been, well, actually we've been observing this, but it's good news for us. But what does it really mean? It is that after 2 weeks without a single local case of COVID, Singapore is almost coronavirus free, because there are no live clusters of infection left anymore, and that the last of the infections in the dormitories have been cleared up. So,
Super
given
news.
that what we have all gone through for the
Yes.
past
Yes.
8 months, it's been 8 months, and the fact that we had more than 58,000 cases, this is really something for us to celebrate. But
Celebrate by being careful.
And the lowest number of deaths in the world, actually.
yes, lowest numbers of deaths in the world.
You
Yeah.
mean less than Taiwan?
Yes.
Yeah.
We're the lowest numbers of death in the world
Yeah.
by COVID.
Yeah. So I think that there's a lot to digest in this thing here. Does this mean that there is no more COVID in Singapore? No, it does not mean that. And why is that? It is because right now we're in an artificial bubble. We've shut down the island. And
The
that's
way we shut down Hong Kong in 2 days. That other bubble that you're talking about?
That's a travel bubble.
Yeah,
that's,
the travel
that's a separate
bubble.
thing. But the thing about it is, I think for a lot of Singaporeans, if you look online again, and I hope that the online comments are not an indication of how most Singaporeans think, because there are a lot of Singaporeans who are saying, why are we letting people in? We should not be letting people in. And they're quite happy to have Singapore continue on this isolation, which is impossible. We cannot, we are a city-state. We have got no hinterland. We need people to come in. We need business to go back again to normal. And when that happens, it's going to be inevitable that there are going to be more cases. And we need to steel ourselves and prepare ourselves for that. The government obviously is being very careful. That's why they're not opening up to stage 3 yet.
No, and that's why, what I was talking to you about the travel bubble with Hong Kong. They were really fast in making that decision that, okay, the COVID cases have risen there and we just stop. That is being vigilant, and that was very, very quick and necessary.
Yes, absolutely necessary.
Well, I don't understand this. I mean, we know for a fact that once we open our borders, we're having the imported cases not coming in. And we just, opening ourselves to even greater risk for having foreigners coming back into Singapore.
Well, they are coming in to quarantine.
Yes, I know that. But even if they come back in quarantine and they're cleared after 14 days, they can still catch it, right?
Well, if there's no one locally that has got it, they can't catch it.
Can they have a what's the word for it?
Asymptomatic.
No. Can it recur again?
Relapse.
A relapse.
No, it doesn't. Basically,
But it does. They said somebody who has been, you catch it again.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that means to say, if you are looking at there is no local infection, someone comes in from overseas, goes through 2 weeks of quarantine, is cleared of the virus, and they're released out to society. There's no way for anyone to catch it. Where would they catch it? If no one in society has got it. My point basically is that this is an artificial thing. You cannot keep containing this.
Yeah.
At some point you have to open it up, and there's going to be that. And I think it's very important to point out something here, which a lot of people misunderstand about the nature of this, is that the tests themselves are not foolproof. You test somebody before they get on the plane and they're negative, but that's because they were exposed to the virus just yesterday. So there's not enough viral load in them to show up in a test. So what then happens is they test negative and you let them into the country. But Singapore is smart. They don't work that way. It doesn't matter. We don't test you when you come on the plane because we know the test is useless, basically.
When you go to quarantine.
When you arrive, you just got to go quarantine.
Quarantine.
Even if you, whatever it is, you go quarantine. Then before you release to quarantine, we test you. And
again.
then we know it works because you've not been exposed to anybody for 2 weeks. You see, that's
But Gilbert,
the key thing.
when we
So the quarantine is much more important than the testing.
Correct. But when we are talking about this, like you said, that this bubble cannot continue, are we then looking at the time when we can open up? Would that probably be when the vaccine comes about?
No.
Or is it too risky? Because you look around Europe, you look at the United States.
Again, for the thing about the vaccine.
The phases, in the third phase, it's becoming even worse.
Yes.
So if we open up and we don't take that special measures, could we risk going into another phase?
When you use the term open up, of course, the government's not just going to open up.
No, true.
Yeah,
so
they're
step
going to be
by
very
step,
careful about
that's
it.
what I'm saying. So if we know that the vaccine could probably be around the corner.
No, the thing about the vaccine that everybody needs to keep in mind basically is this, is first of all, there are limited doses available.
Anyway, guys,
So
I
not
got to stop you
everybody.
here. I got to stop you here because
Okay.
it's going to be irrelevant. Because why? Breaking news: 5 new COVID-19 cases in Singapore with first community infection in more than 2 weeks.
Oh dear.
Okay.
So just
in,
when we were
just
talking
in.
celebrate.
Justin,
No, but this is exactly what I said, though, is that it is possible. And people should not think that it's not
it's
possible.
So
That's the thing
vigilance,
about it.
continuing, following all the rules and social distancing, the masks.
So
And
anyway,
I see so
continuous.
many
Well,
people walking around with masks under their noses.
Yep. Lots of them are doing that.
Lots of them.
This is a good
We'll
reminder.
be monitoring this and,
Yes.
and keeping it up. But,
Anyway, we
know,
just hope that. Well, today we have that one community case. Let's just hope tomorrow we won't be seeing something like that.
Yeah, well,
It does
I
happen.
think that we've got a pretty good system in place here.
Yeah.
And we have to continue, even though people complain or not.
So
We just have
Singapore,
to
hang in there, okay?
Yes.
Singapore, hang in there, please.
Yes.
All right, guys, we have to close the show. But before we do, we just like to say to the family and fans across the world, our deepest condolences and sympathies for the loss of a real football legend, Diego Maradona. Please, rest in peace. Okay, let's close the show. Daisy, you want to say something?
Yes, I would. And it is not Omar Khayyam, before both of you start smiling and giggling. We've moved on because today's subjects, we were talking about wildlife. We were talking about nature in our midst. We were talking just about live and let live, giving people a chance, a space to grow and be what they are. So in that context, I just want to say, a grain in the balance will determine which individual shall live and which shall die. which variety of species shall decrease in number or finally become extinct? And this was said by Charles Darwin. So let us not be that grain that determines the fate of our boars or horses or our errant cyclists. And with that, I just want to say thank you. Namaste.
And also the missing link, right? Since she's on Darwin. But well done. Okay. I like to quote from a song that's performed by Maroon 5, recorded by Maroon 5. It's called Animals. Just this couple of lines. So what you're trying to do to me, it's like we can't stop. We're enemies. But we get along when I'm inside you.
Okay.
So you want to eat swatter? Doesn't mean you go and chase out all the swatter from your forest, okay?
Okay, so for me to wrap it up, basically, a lot of things that we talked about this week have one thing in common, which is basically about coexistence. It's coexistence with each other. It's coexistence with the animal world and the nature world around us. And even coexistence with viruses. Let's not forget that this virus occurred because human beings went into the territories of animals, wildlife, and basically caught viruses. You know, a lot of viruses came from these animals. They were living fine with these animals until humans caught them, and because we have got no immunity to them, this is what happens.
Correct.
Okay, so the best defense for all of us really is two things, and I think is that one is what I've talked about a lot, which is kindness towards each other and kindness towards the animal world as well. And the other thing, basically, that is very important is information. Be informed. Whether you are going to complain about horses being petted without knowing the information, or whether you're going to attack a kid because you don't have the information about the rights of bicyclists on footpaths, or whether or not you're concerned about the virus spread in Singapore and elsewhere, inform yourself. Be safe, be informed, and be kind. Thanks very much for joining us this week, and please do join us again next week where we will have more interesting stories, more updates, and more opinions, humble opinions.
Humble.
Yes.
And remember, Gilbert Shah is open for heavy petting. Bye, everybody.
Namaste.
You could take.